Take a look at this painting. What is this woman holding? We can tell she's a saint by the halo around her head, but who is she? You may know this if you're a Catholic or an art historian, but this is Saint Agatha. And so is this. And this. The reason why I know this is that she is holding her own breasts on a tray. If you think that sounds weird, I can't wait to tell you about Minne di Sant'Agata, or Saint Agatha's breasts, a very popular dessert in Sicily. Now, I didn't grow up in a religious family, but my mom loves art, and she would take me and my sister to lots of museums and churches growing up. We would look at paintings of saints and try to identify them by how they were pictured, without any clues from signs next to the paintings. Some were easier than others. The Virgin Mary in blue, Mary Magdalene, usually in green, Saint Peter with the keys of the kingdom of heaven. But I was particularly intrigued by the many saints who, just like Saint Agatha, were shown with the instruments used to torture them, or with the parts of their bodies mutilated during their martyrdom. I was baffled by how calm all these early Christian martyrs, many of them women, looked. Let me tell you about Saint Agatha and the delicious dessert she's said to have inspired. Saint Agatha lived in the 3rd century CE in Sicily and was born to a wealthy family, probably in Palermo or Catania. The story goes that she chose to become a consecrated virgin and dedicate herself to the Christian religion. However, the governor of Sicily, Quintianus, still wished to marry her. After being refused, he had Agatha confined to a brothel for a time to break her spirit before being imprisoned. This was a time when Christians were being persecuted throughout the Roman Empire, especially under Emperor Decius. Agatha's story is similar to that of many martyrs of the time. As a Christian, she refused to make sacrifices to the gods, and to add insult to injury, where Quintianus was concerned, she wished to remain a virgin. Agatha was imprisoned and brutally tortured, notably having her breasts cut off, as you can see in this painting by Sebastiano del Piombo. After all that, no food or medical attention should be given her. The legend goes that during the night, Saint Peter appeared to her and healed her body, which is why in most depictions of her she is shown with the tray holding the breast, while at the same time looking intact. Sometimes she's even holding the pincers used for the horrific torture she endured. After being miraculously healed, she was made to walk over glass and embers, because apparently she hadn't suffered enough. But just then, an earthquake happened. Agatha was taken back to her cell, but she soon died. A year later, the volcano in the area, the Etna, erupted. It is said that local people went to the saint's tomb and used the veil covering her urn for protection against the fire. This miraculous veil is still worshipped and taken on processions in Catania. The saint is believed to protect people from natural disasters, especially fire. And because of her story, Saint Agatha is also the patron saint of wet nurses, of rape victims, people suffering from breast cancer, and bell founders. Just think of the shape of bells and you'll understand why. Plus, she's a patron saint of Sicily, Palermo, and Catania, among other places. Depicting Saint Agatha with her tray of breasts makes her easily recognizable. Keep in mind that for most of history, literacy was not widespread, so even if you wrote saints' names above them in a church, most people wouldn't have been able to decipher who they were. By representing them with the ways they were martyred, people would know. They would immediately recognize who they were. Frescoes, stained glasses, and altarpieces all played a didactic role in how religion was taught. Plus, the piety and the devotion of these saints would be highlighted, and their willingness to sacrifice everything for God as well. A usually ridiculously handsome and muscular man tied to a post, his body covered in arrows, can only be Saint Sebastian, who, quick tangent, became associated with the gay community in the 19th century, during a time when they too were facing persecution. It probably also helped that he's gorgeous too. A woman carrying her own eyes on a dish can only be Saint Lucy, another virgin martyr who lived after Saint Agatha, also in Sicily, during the reign of Emperor Diocletian, and the horrible Great Persecution, the most relentless persecution of Christians during the Roman Empire. I'm sure I don't need to tell you about how she is said to have been tortured, given how she is depicted. The two saints are often connected in medieval sources, and when her mother was ill, Saint Lucy is even said to have gone on a pilgrimage to Saint Agatha's tomb to ask her to intervene. The story goes that Saint Agatha appeared to Lucy in a dream, predicting Lucy's own martyrdom, which happened around 50 years later than Agatha's. Saint Agatha and other female saints like her, such as Saint Lucy, can be considered a mulier virilis, literally a manly woman, for bravely following Jesus Christ's example of sacrifice and martyrdom, imitatio Christi. After her death, as Saint Lucy's story indicates, the cult of Saint Agatha grew in popularity and it spread throughout the Mediterranean to places like Rome and Ravenna. Pope Gregory the Great was a big fan of Saint Agatha's, by which I mean that the relationship between Sicily and Rome wasn't exactly straightforward, but the Pope realized that championing Saint Agatha and erecting churches in her honor was a pretty great way of gaining the support of the Sicilian people. Saint Agatha was a symbol of asceticism, but also of feminine sacrifice and morality. By canonizing her and popularizing her cult, the Pope could advance both his political goals and his theological concerns and plans for the Church. Through missionaries, the cult of the saint spread to places like San Marino, Calabria, and the island of Malta, which is why, besides Catania, the saint is considered the protector of these places as well. In the medieval period, when the cult of Saint Agatha was spreading, she even reached Constantinople, where miracles were attributed to her. Today, you can still see the relics of Saint Agatha, including one of her breasts, apparently, in the cathedral in Catania. The 14th century bust holding her skull is particularly striking and richly decorated. Because she has been so beloved by the local people for centuries, there have been many additions. The golden crown is said to have been given to the saint by the English king Richard the Lionheart on his way back from the crusade. A collar was given by the opera composer Vincenzo Bellini, not the same Bellini as the drink, that is in honor of the artist Giovanni Bellini, plus a ring was given by Queen Margherita to the saint in the late 19th century. Yes, Margherita like the pizza. You may have heard the story that she's the reason why the pizza is called Margherita, to honor the newly created Italy. That's why it has the 3 colors of the Italian flag. See how history, myths, and food are all connected? Let's talk about Saint Agatha's breasts, by which I mean the dessert. Every year, between the 3rd and the 5th of February, Saint Agatha is celebrated in Catania. There are markets, processions, all kinds of festivities, and the one food you have to try are Minne di Sant'Agata, or Casatelle di Sant'Agata, literally Saint Agatha's breasts. They're also known as minuzzi or casatelli in dialect. They're very similar to the cassata, which is perhaps the most famous sweet from Sicily, but minne or casatelle are smaller. So, these casatelle are made with sponge cake soaked with rosolio, which is a kind of alcoholic syrup, and filled with sweet ricotta, chocolate, and candied fruit, usually oranges. They're covered with icing, probably alluding to purity and virginity, and topped with a candied cherry. And if you're interested in trying them out, I've linked 2 versions of the recipe below in the video description, both of them in English. Now, while they're absolutely delicious, the origin of these sweets is contested, even if they came to be associated with Saint Agatha. Some scholars argue that they could come from much earlier religious practices and the cults of the goddesses Isis and Demeter, both of whom were widely worshipped in Sicily in antiquity. This would make sense when you think that Demeter, Persephone's mother and the goddess of harvests, she was associated with Mother Nature, literally, and bountiful breasts were one of her attributes. In the wonderful 1958 novel Il Gattopardo, or The Leopard by Tomasi di Lampedusa, which is set in 19th century Sicily, the main character even talks about these obscene sweets, wondering how the Inquisition never banned them. He says, what sweet treat could arouse such indignation in a man of rigorous morals? The shameless breasts of Saint Agatha, sold in monasteries and devoured by party-goers, of course. Still, the origin of the sweets is uncertain. Another possibility is that they were influenced by another Sicilian dessert having to do with breasts, the Minne di Sambuca. Yes, like the drink Sambuca, in the region of Agrigento, even if the recipes are slightly different. These breast-looking sweets are attributed to a nun, Sister Virginia Casale di Roccamena, who in the 18th century created them to celebrate the wedding of local aristocrats. And because there are plenty of religious festivals in Italy and plenty of sweets in Sicily, this is still the dessert associated with the festival celebrated in Sambuca in May. In any case, though, the Minne di Sant'Agata are alive and well in Catania, especially during the Saints' Festival. And lest you forget what the sweets represent, tradition says that you should always eat minne in even numbers. 2 breasts mean that each person should get 2 sweets. And this is even mentioned in a 2009 novel by Giuseppina Torregrossa, Il conto delle Mine. I confess that even though I've eaten them before, I've never tried making these sweets at home. But after this video, I think I just might. I personally think that even if you're not religious, stories like Saint Agatha's are worth knowing, especially if you live in the West, because Christianism has had such a huge influence over our culture. Whenever you go to a museum, visit a church, or travel around places like Europe, you'll come across these saints and martyrs in mosaics, frescoes, and altarpieces. In many cases, you may find them even in unexpected places like bakeries and popular festivals. Thinking of my mom taking me to museums and telling me about the saints in the pictures, I think that knowing their stories makes the experience of engaging with art and culture more enjoyable. It makes art more human. Still, because my child is still quite young, I try to stay away from talking about torture, at least for now. Mother of the Year, I know. But she does love the story of Saint Jerome removing the thorn from the lion's paw and the 2 of them becoming best friends, in her own words. She just doesn't understand why Saint Jerome didn't decide to become a vet rather than, spending his time translating the Bible instead. Oh well. So, if you have children in your life, I encourage you to talk to them about the stories behind art that they may encounter. Bonus points if there's food involved. If you don't have children, maybe go take a walk around a museum near you and try to spot how many saints you can recognize just by their attributes. And of course, all I'm saying is equally true of mythological figures. You'll find Persephone with her pomegranate, Aphrodite with her shell, and baby Hercules with his serpents. As for Saint Agatha, she's easy to spot. Just look for the tray of breasts, or if you're in Catania in February, look for the delicious sweets, even if they are kind of morbid when you think too much about it.